We asked Californians whether they thought our state was heading in the right or the wrong direction. And we asked them whether they thought our country, the United States, was heading in the right or wrong direction as well. And their responses shouldn't surprise many people in the depths of a recession like the one we're currently experiencing. Overwhelmingly, Californians told us that they thought both their state and their country were heading in the wrong direction. And they voiced relatively little optimism as to the ability of their elected leaders to solve those problems.
One of the questions that was asked was how people would like to see the government improve the economy. California has a 12% unemployment rate. The national unemployment rate is at 9%. It's clearly a top issue for the public. And one of the interesting results, perhaps the most interesting result in the poll, is that the Republican message of cutting government spending in order to improve the economy resonated here in Democratic California even better than the president's message of stimulating businesses and investing to create jobs.
And it was only when we asked the question about economic stimulus and job creation in very conservative language that the numbers started to even out a little bit. So California is a blue state. It's got a lot more Democrats than Republicans. But even this blue state of California told us pretty clearly, get the deficit under control first, then we'll talk about job creation measures. What's even more discouraging than the overall level of pessimism among California voters is that neither side, neither Democrats nor Republicans, is all that excited about compromise, about putting aside their ideological priorities in order to come to solutions that could hopefully put the state and the nation back on a positive economic course.
Watching the debt ceiling debate that happened over the summer, it showed for Republicans that holding out and not compromising, refusing to raise the debt ceiling under any circumstances unless there were serious government spending cuts, it proved to be a successful strategy for them. And it looks like both sides have learned the same lesson from that fight. Compromise is not the way to go, and that concede nothing is the new motto both in Washington and for the voters here in California.
There is, however, an interesting ethnic difference here. On the Republican side, there's not much ethnic difference because, as I said before, those Latinos who have stayed with the Republican Party are of a particular sort of die-hard variety and are probably quite comfortable with the general trends in that party. However, within the Democratic Party, it's white voters who are much more likely to say that Obama ought to stand up and stand firm, and it's Latino voters who are much more willing to see compromise happen and much more willing to have and supportive of having the president do grand compromise around issues of fiscal reform. So that's a very, very interesting set of findings where you've got a group that's moving over to be much more strongly identified with the Democratic Party and is also much more willing to have that party make the essential compromises to have policy actually happen in Washington.